Welcome back to FT Markets. Is Super Mario back? Mario Draghi, the ECB president, has surprised with a bigger than expected quantitative easing programme for the eurozone. But will it work? With me to discuss what's been announced today is Ferdinando Giugliano, who's the FT's economics correspondent. Ferdinando, are you impressed?
Well, I certainly am, and markets seem to be impressed as well. First of all, by the sheer size of the program.
60 billion a month.
Yeah, which is bigger than what many were expecting just a few days before, and even bigger than what was trailed
and
yesterday.
open-ended as well.
Well, on that, I think there are different views.
Fudge.
Yes, because the statement is saying that the program will end in September 2016 as it is, but the ECB is saying we are happy to continue it if inflation doesn't look like it's going to go back on target. So it's a bit of a fudge there.
And some of the qualifications, risk sharing, pari passu, these slightly technical things.
Yes, I mean, I think on risk sharing is something which commentators have obsessed about for quite a while. Basically, the program will mainly work via the national central bank. So the Banca d'Italia will buy Italian debt and or will have the risk on its books, essentially, for 80% of the total purchases, while the ECB will have 20%.
But Mario Draghi tried to play down.
He said this is quite a futile discussion. It was quite blunt. But I think the question remains, is this a program for the eurozone as a whole? And also, is this really the way a single currency, a monetary union should operate?
Okay, the market reaction has been quite positive. Eurozone stocks certainly have risen after his announcement. Perhaps we'll get a rally such as we had after QE in the US, or maybe not.
Well, I think the reaction so far has been positive. I think the rally could probably continue for a while, but really it depends. I mean, there are so many obstacles now down the road. At the weekend, there are elections in Greece. That's the first obstacle, and investors may get nervous if the anti-austerity series were to get into power.
What's going to be crucial, of course, is one of the most crucial factors, what happens to the euro. Our second chart shows how the euro has fallen quite significantly after the announcement. It's already been on a long-term downward trend. That's going to be I would say pretty important because it raises not only prospects for exporters, but also boosts inflation and inflation expectations.
Indeed, and I think people have said that the currency channel is the one which is most important to the Eurozone QE, partly because of the structure of the banking system, which is so predominant in the Eurozone. And it means that whether or not there will be more lending to the economy really depends on what the banks are doing. And it seems like there is some evidence that it's
yeah, we had some
better.
very positive, well, reasonably positive results from the ECB's own bank lending survey this week, showing that demand for credit by companies is picking up, and a lot of the money actually being spent on fixed investment. And what we should also remember, of course, is that we've had that very sharp fall in oil prices, which is obviously going to be, should be positive at least for consumption. But then, as you mentioned, there are quite a lot of sort of headwinds as well. You mentioned the Greek elections. There's also the whole sort of question about confidence, about this sort of era we have of incredibly low borrowing costs, yields around the world, possible disruption that might be caused by a Fed hike this year. So, to my mind, not entirely sure that it's going to be, an overwhelming. It's clear that it's going to work. I mean, that's how I'd put it.
No, I think it's, there are so many really question marks, and it came a bit late. But certainly for today, I think a lot of investors are very impressed.
Just one very quick last question. How do you think it's going down with governments, with Germany on one side and other governments on the other?
Well, I think that's another really important question. I think it's much trickier in a way than OMT, the commitment.
Whatever it takes to save.
Yeah, whatever it takes. Because there we knew that Angela Merkel was very much on board of what Draghi did. Here, he's looking a little bit more isolated. Now, Merkel today said ECB is independent, they do what they want, but we know there are lots of questions in Germany. And I think as the ECB balance sheet starts to swell, I think there will be more and more pressure from Germany to,
And as Draghi himself said, there's a lot of, he requires the governments to implement structural reforms as well, crucially, to make it all work.
Yes, and I think there are some signs. Some governments are pushing ahead. Spain has done it. I think there are some promising signs in Italy. But will France really reform its labour market?
A big question. Thank you, Ferdinando. We're going to have to stop there, I'm afraid. So, Mario Draghi has surprised on the upside, but quite a few obstacles ahead.